I'll unmute first.
There we go.
It was not an April Fool's Day joke. That's what I was about to say.
Is it or was it? Who knows?
It was not. It really happened.
It was real.
It really happened.
Was it a dream? Is it all a dream? Is it
It's
like
all, you're still living the dream.
Oh.
All part of it. All part of it.
Oh, man. Oh, I don't even have it in me to continue this bit because I'm so happy. I was so happy.
I know. You know what I was thinking for tonight? Maybe if you're able to multitask. I know Boiler Dad's really good at this. So maybe you'll. Well, I shouldn't say it. One of my favorite things about the quick casts is the interactions with all the.
I couldn't do it. I mean, like
comment.
I can't. I don't.
Well, I was going to say. So I was going to put it on you and say maybe throughout tonight's show, after a little while, once we start getting a lot in there, you could just keep putting things up, and we don't even need to address every one of them, but maybe just as you see good ones, just pop them up there because I think that's a big part of this, and I think Boiler Dad has talked about that too. Just the sharing this with everybody and all the nice comments that people make, the DMs we get, the meeting people in person as he and you have done, and I have as well. I wasn't there this weekend, but I always think it's funny when people like thank us for doing something fun when it's like, you guys think we're doing this for you. You're there for us. We're doing this stuff because it's like, this is cheaper than therapy. So,
Yep.
So we're going to talk to you guys.
Yep.
Oh, by the way, I figured I couldn't be left out tonight.
There you go. Cheers, guys. Cheers to everybody that's watching. I don't. The one thing before we start, I know that some.
Oh, we haven't started.
Oh yeah, no. Like before.
This is like the pre-room.
This is the preamble.
Nobody can hear this.
The production meeting. I love when people come up to us. It now happens, especially at these kind of big games. It always happens with Ryan, absolutely, because the volume. But now he.
I thought you were gonna say it's because I'm white.
But it's your face. You are the front and center brand. The face of the brand right now.
I'm very short. People find that out in person.
They really don't know that.
You look taller, and
I look taller on their screens. Yeah.
But like, don't apologize for coming up to us and tell us that like the show that you've been around for some of this nonsense that we do. Like that exactly like Jay Money said, like that's the point. Like we do all this, I think, and we'll get into this, but like we do all this because the BS that companies talk about, or that some universal that Auburn talks about, where it's like Auburn, I just pulled it out of the hat, but about like family. Like about the program being a family and the benefits of staying and like being a part of that. Especially when it comes to the basketball program, especially in the Gene Keady, Matt Painter era, like that's not BS. Like that is felt by the fans. I think, Boiler Dad, you were saying this in your reaction, but it's like Painter and Keady make us feel like we're part of the family, even though we're just schmoes that we're just sitting there, right?
It's a weird thing to feel like you're part of it, even though you're.
I mean, we congratulated each other.
Right, we did. You did a great job yesterday.
Hey, man, you really left it all out there.
Yeah, I told my wife this today at lunch. She took the week off because the kids are on spring break, and I said, Anish is, when things are going well, he is like the most jovial person in the world. And yesterday it was his joke, just telling us we had done a good job over and over and over. Good. We did it. We did a great job. We earned it.
You and me.
Yeah, it was you and I. So you guys have been to a lot of games, and Jay, you're going to have to give us perspective from on the television. Yeah. Anish, you can give on the ground, as I can, perspective. Where does that rank to you in neutral court environments?
I mean, somebody said it. I think the broadcast said, and I'm interested in hearing how the broadcast actually kind of turned out, but I think they were saying it was 70-30 Purdue fans. I think, to Tennessee fans' credit, and I don't like to say that very often, they were loud. Phrase, yeah. I mean, like for the amount of people, it was closer to 80-20, but they got up and they were loud and they were cheering and they were, it was a vocal kind of minority there, but it was like at least 80% Purdue fans. And when it got loud for Purdue, it sounded like, it doesn't sound like Mechie, because Mechie has that din, but like
It's like more of a roar in Little Caesars. It was like, like
I thought you
it
were
was
being
macho.
in the group chat. You were very complimentary of Little Caesars Arena. I thought
Yes.
you were joking until I got there because I hadn't been there. It's one of the
No,
newer arenas in the NBA. It's gorgeous.
it's
It's a
great.
cool
It's
arena.
a great place.
Yeah.
I was so impressed with the concourses are so wide and tall, and that concept of they have the restaurants feeding right in. It's an excellent place. Yeah. So Kyle Sego says, "Does anybody bring tissues for the group therapy session?" Let me tell you something, Kyle. I know we're not going to read every comment, but I think we should if we really feel like it. And here's the thing I've got going, and you guys can tell me. I think I'm the softest one in the group. I'm a major wimp when it comes to getting my emotions. When they get out there, I can't wrangle them. And so what happens to me over and over now is somebody will send me a link. Will send me. Sorry, my son's calling me right now. If you heard that. Great timing. They'll send me a link. They'll send me something that I haven't seen yet, and I just lose it.
Right.
It'll be something as simple as here. So here, I hadn't watched the very end of the game, and I'm not going to tell you guys know who made that video that I put on Twitter, which is kind of catching fire, which is kind of cool. But the end of the video kind of surprised me. It's got a clip of just the clock hitting 0 and the crowd reacting and the team reacting, and I was wrecked again. Like I was like, okay, just knowing that it happened again, like Anish, knowing that this is real and all that bullshit we've been through for so long is kind of past us. I mean, like a label is gone, right? I mean, here's the thing. Like that's the thing. Much of the baggage we carry as Purdue fans comes with this identity of not being able to get to the Final Four, obviously. And so Edey, we saw a version of a guy who he was blowing off steam because he's been feeling it and it's been riding with him. It's been on his back. But I think he's kind of a microcosm of all of us. Maybe not all of us have a boner right now.
I'm glad that made the rounds. My son
Yeah.
showed me that on TikTok.
Yeah.
That
So
was
I'm
very
glad.
fun.
So the 8th grader there shows you that on TikTok.
Yeah.
It's made the rounds, and I heard that was Lance's video, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I don't think Lance saw that coming. That was like live feed stuff. Right?
Yes.
I don't think he would have done that, which is great that it made its rounds. But we were close. Even if you were excited, we can say that we were excited and emotional. And then let me ask you guys a question, because a lot of media outlets have talked about it. Sleepers really hit it today. I think I've seen like 3 other places talk about Edey's emotion, his outbursts, his honesty, his candor, whatever you want to call it. Very un-Edey-like hour with the media, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where he was saying what he felt like saying.
Mm-hmm.
How do you guys feel about that?
I mean, the man's earned
That's
the
it.
right to say whatever he wants. And
Yeah.
and even I think I messaged you guys because I watched some of it. I'm sure I don't even think you were home yet. And I said, Edey in the post game took a polite shot at Barnes.
Yeah.
And I even said that word to you guys. I'm like, it was still politely done. Like it was still like, he's a great coach, but he's one of the many guys who overlooked me. That was him going to make a point, I think, that it's not just bullshit like some people will say, like nobody believed in us. That's what teams always say, right? He's making a point that no, like literally guys like the guy I just beat overlooked me and didn't think anything of me. And that's simply his way of saying, like, thank you for Matt Painter actually seeing this in me and fostering this and bringing this out of me. So I don't know if you're looking for a different answer than that. I think he's more than entitled to say it. I got no problem with that. And
I love it. I mean, like exactly. It's always kind of spun back into gratitude, right? Like that's the thing, is that it's always gratitude back to Painter. Like you I mean, you see the thing the one that got me again as the same year as the Baby Boilers, like 07 to 11 was when I was there, when Rob was doing the call, when Rob was saying it, and then afterwards when Painter came up and when Painter was cracking, his voice was cracking. and Rob, when he's broadcasting, he's the consummate professional. You can tell that he's a Purdue, like any kind of graduate that does kind of color announcing. You can tell that
He
he's a
comes down on
Purdue
Purdue
alum.
sometimes, though.
But exactly, he's not a homer.
Yeah.
Like he's a Purdue fan. Like you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like he does that. Like we don't have too many reckless homers, out
Right.
there. He's very kind of measured and things like that. He's very professional. And when he lost it kind of on air, and then like all of the post game videos, where one of them was Newbert, which was funny, kind of interviewing Hummel and doing the Goodwill Hunting, it's not your fault kind of thing.
I was like, man, this is therapy happening right now,
Yes.
isn't it?
Well, because apparently Rob, more than we've ever even heard,
Beat himself
blamed
up.
himself for getting hurt, which is like
Absurd.
oh my God, Rob, don't do that to yourself.
Yeah.
Because he knows he was the piece that they didn't have that year.
Mhm.
And maybe they go to a Final Four. And it also shows how much they love paint. Obviously, we knew that. But you mentioned paint breaking. I think that's so significant too, because he let out more than just because he's never denied, like you were talking about during one of the in-between days, he was acknowledging, yeah, I feel it. I'm part of it. I also am a fan of Purdue, so I want this too. But so he's never hidden that stuff. But some of the stuff he cracked and said about Rob, he said, he literally cursed on air. He said, we hadn't done shit. We hadn't earned anything. We had bad facilities. I was 35 years old, and these guys chose to come here and believe in me. And he goes, I wouldn't have made it 5 years if those guys didn't do that. Like that's 20 years ago. I mean, he's talking about like, and to immediately think of all those guys. Then in one of the pressers, he talked about David Teague and Carl Landry.
Yeah, that was
He
cool.
said, you come in, I didn't recruit them. They were pieces we still had that could start to build something. Like, what a guy to be thinking of people like that.
Every time he gets credit for anything, he always deflects it to the assistants.
Well, did you hear what he said to Rob? He
Yeah.
said, I don't know if I deserve it. I know this guy does.
Yeah, exactly.
What are you
And that's
talking
like,
about?
that's where for me it was like, it like in my voice.
19
like,
years as a head coach, 4 years as a player. Like, I mean, putting guys in the NBA, making, you can talk about all those cliches, making men out of like, but he did look at some of the guys, what they've turned into.
Oh, yeah.
The coaching tree, PJ on the bench, what Hummel is now. Like, I mean, he is the whole package. And he's
And did you guys hear Hummel's account of when he lived with Paint when he was?
He's talking to Newbert. Yeah.
I've heard bits
Yeah.
and pieces of that story because he tore his. I think he was in Russia and he tore his labrum or something like that.
Yeah, it was shoulder, right? That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, like he could have afforded an apartment, but I do think that part of that is like you don't want to be alone, and he probably was kind of in a low place where his announcing career, like he didn't have that yet. And he was still playing, and his body was letting him down, and it's like that must be, like we talk about this all the time, where it's like if you're a successful, and Painter was saying this, like if you're a successful athlete, your career is done by, if in best case scenario, 32, 33, you know what I mean? Like with a few exceptions, like if you're playing until you are 33, like that's a successful beyond anything, and so the mentality that these guys go through when their playing career, and they're realizing their playing career is over, especially a guy who, if you play Rob's career out like 100 times, like just the basketball stuff, this is probably one of the kind of lowest outcomes, right? He should have been a double digit kind of NBA, vet. He should have made 2 deep March runs. He should have done kind of all of this. Right now, like he kind of has to live with the fact that it is one of the great kind of college basketball, at least like Big Ten, maybe what ifs, like his career, right? And so, like, I'm sure that he was in such a bad place, and for Painter I'll bet it was like Painter telling him, hey, you're not getting your own place. Like you're coming and you're living with us and we are making you, like we'll helping you rehab and we'll do that. But I'll bet it was him that reached out, not, the other way around. Right.
Right. And you talk about those missed opportunities. Like there's so many things to talk about, but like that team, think about how early in Paint's career that was. And they were at third in the nation when Rob blew his knee out, right? In February. It's not like it was an early third. I mean, it was well into the season. So like, what if they What if they have a Final Four there?
Yeah.
What if and then 5 years ago, it was in there literally as in your grasp as it can be.
Yeah.
And now Painter finally gets it, and people talk about, well, now he's legitimized. Like, no, he had Final Four caliber teams multiple times that didn't make it, not really because he wasn't a good coach. I mean, you and I were in the car after the 19 loss to Virginia, and you said something to me like, he just coached them to a Final Four.
Yeah.
Basically. But they didn't get there because of 3 seconds. So like all this bullshit over the years of him not be, the one thing he doesn't have. Oh, he always choke. No, he didn't choke. I'm sorry. I know.
You guys want to hear something crazy? One of the things I'm seeing right now, I don't know if you guys are seeing clips of that Virginia game now that are popping up. Like
I try to not watch, but yes, go on.
I don't think I had ever seen the pass until today.
It's
and
unbelievable.
It made me so mad in the video.
How many times would he do that? How many times would he successfully make that pass?
Work? How does that go through? How does it go? I mean, everything was perfect there.
How did he know to make the pass? I remember at the time people saying most players turn around, take 1 or 2 dribbles, and shoot from there.
Right.
Oh, I mean, too many things had to.
It was. He did it, right? Like Painter did it. That team did it. Carson did it, and they just didn't get there, right?
Right.
And now I think we should have maybe started this off with a congratulations to Matt Painter for not being on that list anymore. The best coach to never make the Final Four.
That's a big deal.
I mean, like that is. Awesome.
I would like to address something that reminds me of too. Boiler said this. I think you said it in 19. I think you said it. You were surprisingly upbeat after the Virginia loss. Maybe not upbeat, but you were optimistic. It's a better word. And you said this is actually, as crushing as it was, you said this is still made me believe though now that this can happen for us. And you said, I think Painter. You said to us after that, I think Painter will get them there. This has made me think that he will, because this was such a freak thing.
Yeah, and Jay, you said this to me this week about how my emotions are a roller coaster. It must be a ridiculous place to be in my head because I was so all over the place in the last few days.
Yes.
But I said that because that was a logical thing. It's exactly what you guys were saying. I just said it right after I said, I actually feel good about the future after that. Because that Virginia team, let's not forget, they were just like Purdue this year, if not better.
Yes.
They were number 1 a lot that season.
Yes.
They had kind of come into their own the previous 2 seasons. They're like, okay, they're a bit of a standard bearer. Purdue had them beaten, and they made 1 play. Right?
I think
if Purdue hit their free throws, if 2 different plays go their way, we don't have to dig.
There's already a Final Four guy in his 40s. That was 5 years ago.
Right.
But what it makes me think of is, I think we've talked about this since, and I firmly believe this now. I believe you were one of the first of us to say it. Now that he's broken through, now I feel like this could happen a lot more. I saw someone else online say that you could see a Bill Self kind of a run now. Like, is the next 10 years shocking to imagine a few more? Like, it's not to me.
Like an Izzo or again,
he knows how to do it. The players will come. There's no monkey on the back. Because no matter what they say, no matter how focused they look, the cathartic release you saw revealed that it was a lot of pressure, that this was not, business as usual. They felt it, but this was the first group that was from the day one of the season. They were laser focused. There was no like, you're not going to shake our confidence. We know we're this good. It doesn't take the pressure away. But
did you guys see there's so many clips. Everybody's getting these, as we go on, everybody's getting more and more information. People are sending links. The one I just saw, I saw probably half hour ago, 2 hours ago, something like it, right in that range.
The Dan
was
Doctor
a
one?
candid interview in the tunnel underneath Little Caesars Arena. And it's before they go live or before they take it. Painter's talking about, he's making some reference of
like a 70s or a 60s movie.
Game show. Yep.
Yeah. It's a goofball.
Chuck Barris. Exactly. But the fact that he was just being a dude at that minute, it's the thing that everybody loves about Painter so much.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He's just a normal guy. He's real candid and he'll answer your questions. But he also, like he said this a couple times in the interviews recently too. When I recruit guys, he says, I have the ability, he said this in the post game, I have the ability to recruit guys that I want to like. I want to enjoy myself. I want this to be fun.
Yeah, he said that. He goes, "This isn't a school district.
Right. That was a funny line. That was a
I
funny
don't
line.
have to take the kids that I don't want to take." I was like,
Yeah.
"Wow, that's so honest."
Yeah. That was awesome. So let me ask you guys a question. This is weird. I've get like Jay and I both have some notes and some ideas here, but what's
All
your
it takes is the
favorite?
Final Four once every 44 years.
That's right. That's right. What is your favorite thing? The thing that like got your attention? You know, you say Anish, you say it was the Hummel thing. If that's your final answer, it's fine.
That's my
Just your favorite thing you saw in the post game. Like, is there anything that you were just like, okay, that was ridiculous, that was incredible, never thought I saw that? There's a thing I'm looking. I can tell you one thing. If I can go in my time machine, go forward for a second. Number one, I'm still trying to find my way to get to Phoenix on a somewhat reasonable budget. But what I want to see when I get there is I want to see Purdue on the court. I want to see Purdue on the presser, right? I want to see Purdue up in the Final Four, starring Purdue. Like, that's something that I'm like, that'll be a big moment for me again, you know. But what was something that you saw in the post game that really you're like, holy moly, this was just an incredible thing?
J Money, like I'll just be quick, but mine is the Hummel thing, only because it shows that the family thing is meaningful and real and not contrived and not BS. Like, there were role players and stars and like people in the audience, all of that. I mean, like, it is about Keady and Painter, and it is as real as it gets, down to like, he Newbert, I think there was a question to Hummel that was like, why do you guys love him so much? And they answered with all the same things we were talking about. And it's like, that's the stuff that I wanted to hear. And again, a Final Four is meaningless when compared to that. But what it does is it validates it, and it puts the stories about him like that, running a program this way, like doing it this way, winning this way, like in the headline. So to me, that's, that was kind of emblematic of it. Sorry, Jamie, go ahead.
No, I agree. And I think Kevin Pass just made a comment in the side there about the oneness of, that no other program has the "we are all one" mentality. Not that one. There's a different one. He says no other program has that "we are all one" mentality. And I think it's so true. Like, think of the other programs that you just saw in the Elite Eight. Can you imagine any of them with players, like, not just the ones we heard and saw, but the guys on Twitter, the guys who made it there? Ryan Smith was there. There were guys that just like talking about putting up old pictures of Painter. Like, they all just wanted it for him. And it's like, it's that family element. So my answer was going to be, yeah, obviously the Hummel thing was amazing. But I said this last week. I've said this many times before. I know I'm not the only one who said it, but Gene being there, Gene being on the court and being in the middle of it. And guys like Edey, who was 2 years old when Gene retired, walking over to him and making sure he was included in it. Like,
I mean, again, Zach Edey, the greatest basketball player in Purdue history, like, cutting a piece of net and being a 22-year-old, I think, or maybe 21, I don't know, like, cutting a piece of net, giving it to Gene Keady when 6 years ago he hadn't heard of Purdue. And, like, the question about when, like, I think there's an athletic profile written about him. And, he was, his coach down in Florida was talking about, potential schools to start, to be interested in. And they brought up Purdue, and his question was, what's a Purdue? To go from that to two-time National Player of the Year, cutting down a net and handing it to Gene Keady, understanding what that means fully, not just going through the motions, like, that is family lore. You pass down stories about people that like your elders that way, when you are an actual family, and that is how family lore is told, and that's why it's in Hispanic cultures, it's called the Day of the Dead, but in Indian cultures, there is something similar where it's like a person's soul lasts as long as the last memory of them on Earth lasts, and the last story that's told about them on Earth lasts. And, like, there's a lot of things that, like, these kind of ceremonies that you do kind of based on that. Like, this way, like, the way that this program is won is literally like that. It's like families passing stories down to each other, and there's no reason that a guy that started playing basketball, 8 years ago, should have ever heard of Gene Keady, let alone feel this level of connection to him. It's like a guy from Canada, like, you know what I mean? No Purdue connection at all. It's real. It's real, and it's ridiculous that basketball means this, like, that causes us to like introspect this much and mean this much. But like, it is, and I like it. Like it allows us to feel real feelings, and that's nice.
Well,
Hey, look, we've got a guest.
wow, what happened?
How many do I have to show up in a row before I'm no longer referred to as a guest?
How many? How many? Like total, or how many on time?
There's the question right there. Do you have clocks in Texas?
Yes, we do. We have Texas time though,
Okay.
and Texas time is different than Central time.
Is it like Texas toast? Because I like Texas toast.
Texas toast is good.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you my favorite part of the postseason, guy, or the post game, guys. My favorite part, and you're gonna excuse my, you have to excuse my language for a second. This is Edey saying we're fucking winners. Listen, that got me. Like I was like that had punch to it. That was everything that we saw of the underside of that team, like staying well behaved and being like, we're mad. We've been mad for a long time. We've said the right things to the media. We've been mad at ourselves. We've been mad at you guys for asking stupid questions. We've been mad at the next layer of people saying that we couldn't do it and we're not anything, and we have not accomplished anything, even though, like Anish said this, they had accomplished some things. They were already a conference champ twice, right? Before this year. That matters, right? To say they hadn't done anything, to say they had never accomplished anything, those guys get sick and damn tired of hearing it, right? So hearing those guys say that, to me, like, and I want to ask you guys a question that's related to this, jumps right off of that. Them blowing off steam and Edey really, really pounding that idea, right? To me, that says this team's loose now.
I think they
Is
were
it possible we see another unleashing of hell in the next round?
I think they were pretty loose before.
In the Tennessee game?
I don't think they were loose at all in Tennessee. I think that 20% shooting shows you how tight they were.
Maybe. I think that Tennessee is as good of a defense as they've experienced all season.
They're good. They're good.
And I
20%
think
is really awful for this
that
team.
percentage is really bad, but I do think that Tennessee has a great way of making you uncomfortable. The whole state of Tennessee makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah, I was going to say, are we talking about the team or just Tennessee in general?
In Tennessee in general. But I think that, like, the looseness expressed itself in the way that the team was able to not, like, lose the plot when they were down by 11 in the first half.
How many times do you think Purdue needs to beat Tennessee in how many different sports before Tennessee fans stop talking? I'm just
I've never met a Tennessee fan.
Listen, I got a good story, guys. A coworker of mine. I posted something on LinkedIn. It was a picture of my son and I holding up the four right near the court. I said, it's always been fairest in all the land, but now my alma mater has danced to the Final Four. That's all I said. I didn't talk about gloating, any of that. I celebrated the fact that Purdue was finally in the Final Four. Second comment was from a coworker of mine saying, well, I hope the refs travel with you.
That's
Tennessee alum.
I love that. I love that stuff because when you have nothing else, you can always blame the refs.
It's so cheap.
When you have nothing else, all you can say is that the refs were bad and Edey's too tall. Okay.
And I tried to find Tennessee fans chirping. That's all they're talking about. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing. And like you guys are saying, what way do we have to beat you for you to say, okay, congratulations? It's not going to happen from that group, is it?
It's not going to happen from that group. But I love it. I love it because, like I said, they've got, if you have nothing else, and all you can do is complain about the refs and show like your ignorance of basketball, then you just kind of look foolish, and it doesn't really affect me or make me feel anything other than contempt for
how dumb you are.
For how dumb you are. Great. Yep. Okay. You know what? Fine. Refs. Zach Edey's tall. Sounds good.
Over
Have
and
fun
over.
back in Knoxville.
Over and over. Go back 5 years. Purdue beat them that year.
Yeah.
Beat them in football. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Purdue just keeps taking your lunch money. Doesn't matter. It's got nothing to do with EDB. The fact that there are still people saying that kind of stuff about Edey. He just went for 40 and 16. Like, stop. Just stop talking.
Painter was saying it too in the post game, where like if he makes his free throws, he gets 50. Like if he makes his free throws at a normal clip, he gets 50. And it's like, can you imagine on that stage, like, you know, dropping 50 and 16 to take Purdue to the first Final Four since 1980? I mean, like that is the guy. I mean, but what I do want, like, shout out to the Tennessee fans that I'm going to ignore. I don't care about you. What I do want to talk about, I think Boiler Dad, you gave Barnes credit. Like that was a hell of a game.
Oh, he didn't.
I mean,
he did what he had to do. And I said this to people I was watching with. You can get mad all you want at the lack of fouls being called, but if you're Tennessee and you're getting away with it,
that's their game.
keep doing it.
Right?
Keep freaking doing it. That's working.
I'm not mad at that game plan at all. I literally couldn't believe the style of things they were allowing. One of the bust, and there's so many loose ball fouls that I was like, gosh, how do you let that one go?
Right.
Yeah.
Like
right.
one of them against, Smith is trying to get the ball at half court, and he just gets run through.
Mm-hmm.
I said, there's nothing there? There's nothing there? Like that type of thing. I was like, okay, that's fine. What Purdue needed to figure out, and it took them a little bit saying, okay, we've got to get gritty. We got to get grimy. We got to get down in the dirt. There was a period of time in that, 12-minute, 10-minute left in the first half, something like that, where you saw a different Purdue, where everybody's diving for balls. Everybody was playing with intensity. The crowd was just boiling. I was like, we're about to blow the roof off this thing because Purdue marched back up right there, and it felt like Purdue was just going to eviscerate them. And then it happened again in the second half. And to Tennessee's credit, they kept it at bay both times. Like I was like, okay, this is a good team. And I've watched Tennessee play a bunch of times. But I was like, I really felt like Purdue was about to let them have it. And the only thing that failed Purdue over and over was the shooting. Right? Yeah. Open guy in the corner.
Right. Well, but it was a game of it felt. I said this in the first half. I said this is just going to be. Strap in because it's going to be these runs. Like Tennessee gets up 11 on it was like a 12-2 run. Then Purdue goes, what was it, like 15-4 to end the half or something crazy like that. Like, and it just kept happening. It would be like a 7-0 run, and then it would just be a swing the other way. And you'd say, oh, Purdue's up 6. Oh, they're up 8. Oh, and now they're up 1. Like, and that's a mark of a good team. You're always playing good teams in the Elite Eight, right?
I mean, I think if Tennessee doesn't, first of all, play that game 10 times and maybe Tennessee wins 5. I don't know. Like I think maybe they win.
I had a Tennessee alum today. I talked to him today, and he said if Tennessee plays Purdue 10 times, Purdue wins 7 or 8 because he thinks Purdue's shooting is so much better than what they exhibited.
That's fair.
Yeah. He's like that puts space in there. He said Tennessee was taking shots at Purdue, but what Purdue neutralized in Tennessee, they could neutralize it over and over. It's
plus it's Knecht is gonna go for 37 every time.
I mean,
what's the key?
Paint started out with Smith on Knecht, which was a huge head scratcher to me. I was like, when I was looking ahead of the game, and I told you guys in the preview, I was like, okay, we're gonna see bigger, stronger guys on Knecht because we know he can absorb contact. Right away, you see Smith on him, like, oh no. And sure enough, it's not Smith's fault. It's just not. What's he gonna do?
I think the idea of putting Smith on there was to try to limit his 3-point shooting, which did not work. But my confidence in Purdue this postseason is almost like a meme at this point. But the reason why I wasn't that concerned was it became clear relatively quickly within the game that this was going to be a Knecht and Edey game. That this was going to be two of the best players in college basketball going at each other in the game. And as soon as that became clear, I was like, well, Purdue's going to win this because I have confidence that someone in the Smith, Lawyer, Jones, Gillis, cadre, Wren, out of those 5, there are going to be at least one of those guys are going to make plays. And what I was worried about with Tennessee was that we were going to have like the Ziegler game. You were going to have a game where that second player starts putting in, 15 to 20 points. And when it became clear that wasn't going to happen, it's only a matter of time before somebody steps up. And it took until a minute left when Jones hit that 3 to put them up by 6, minute 35. But the point was, it's like you got choose one of those 5, and they're going to make the play.
Can I ask you guys, when did you guys feel at peace? Anisha's already talked to me about this in person, but when did you feel at peace? When were you like, okay,
the block?
Huh?
The block.
Okay,
When he smashed Connect's hopes and dreams,
that was awesome.
I was like, that's it. They're gonna win now. I mean,
To Michael's point, that's the storybook, right? Like
Yeah.
you're the two superstars in college basketball this year, like meeting at the summit, right? Go ahead, Jim. I'm sorry.
Mhm.
no, I that's that. I don't have much else. Him, and I think you talked about this in your post game last night. Like Edey was clearly gassed. He airballs a free throw. And we were watching it. I was watching with a group of people, and people were going, "Oh my gosh, his legs are gone. His legs are gone." And then they come down, and he rises up. And if you watch the replay, it's a perfect block. Like there's no contact.
Right, there's
at all.
no contact. It's
incredible.
So much control.
And for it to be on Connect, I mean, you could not write it better. Like, and I saw a few people take shots at Connect saying, "Well, he didn't come through and Edey did." No. I wouldn't even go that far. Connect.
I don't see it that way at all. I think Connect did everything he could.
He
That's
did
a damn good
everything
player,
possible.
man.
37 of 66 points.
Great.
I don't know how you could ever say anything bad about what.
I've heard it, Michael. That's
I've
the
heard it
thing. It's
too.
wild.
Well, yeah,
It's
but
out
I
there.
mean, these are
It's
Tennessee.
crazy.
But let's start. Let's start with 12-11 to go in the game. Zach Edey makes a layup. They go up 51-46. The next scoring possessions are Edey hits a free throw at 11:39. Edey makes a layup at 10:54. This is just Purdue. Edey makes a layup at 7:38. Edey makes a jumper at 6:03. Edey makes a free throw at 4:42. Edey makes a free throw, 2 of them at 3:56. Edey dunks at 3:24.
Is this all consecutive you're reading?
Those are
Yes.
consecutive Purdue possessions, not including the Tennessee score.
That's like 8-9 minutes of game time.
That's 8-9 minutes of Edey just getting whatever he needs. And
Right.
and when Purdue went up with like 11 minutes to go in the half, like I'm not going to say that I was like, oh, they've definitely got this in the bag, because you never know what's going to happen. But Edey takes the game over and scores in a variety of different ways. Purdue got that lead, and this is a Purdue team that knows what to do with the lead. I think back to the St. Peter's game, and when I think about that, the one thing that stands out to me is the 3 backcourt players for Purdue just tossing the ball around, not making an attack on the basket, not trying to make a shot, not trying to get open. No one wanted the ball. No one wanted to do that. And maybe that's not fair, but that's what I remember from that game. And that is not something that you saw from this Purdue team. This was, I can score, and I'm going to try to make a play. And when you have a team with that mentality, you just got to stay the course.
There are 2 parts of that, right? I mean, but first of all, I actually think like everybody on the floor, like I think, again, we don't like coming down on players. All of them are awesome. That's why this is family. Like in the past, Mason Gillis has kind of, like shown his nerves a little bit on these kind of stages. Gillis, after missing like 3-4 3-pointers, not scoring a single point, I thought he had a phenomenal game.
He had 8 rebounds.
That is the 0 points and 8 rebounds. If there's a Gene Keady line, that's it. You know what I mean? Like that is it's the Painter axiom of like not allowing your offense to dictate your effort on defense. Defense traveling, you know what I mean? Like your shot might not, but the defense always will. Defense and hustle, like defense and rebounding will. But so. In terms of that, I think everybody came to play, and nobody was shaken by the moment. Nobody was kind of overwhelmed or anything like that. I think all year, but especially that game. But Smith breaking presses effortlessly. Tennessee presses, probably the best in the country. Like Tennessee and Iowa State this year, probably the best, the 2 best to me. Defenses that scared me the most, especially when it came to Purdue, forcing Purdue into, turnovers and pressure, the things that we were talking about before. But like every time, and we've talked about, how many years have we talked about Purdue Purdue point guards' inability to break the press and that forcing these unnecessary turnovers and fast break points, like easy points that you're just giving up in a game like this that could have caused the difference. whenever Braden Smith had the ball, it was, I mean, like, he had no problem, like a maestro. Like, that's what Painter called him. It's just perfect orchestration. And then Zach, I mean, like, that dude was on a different level. All he has been all year. It like even compared to last year when he won the Player of the Year, but this year all
But
year.
what do greats
especially
do?
that game,
They
just-
rise. They rise. They play better in
just
the high pressure moments.
those two were not going to let Purdue at least go down without swinging, and
Right.
kept the game.
But that's what should make you feel good right now. And Michael, what's made you feel probably good all tournament too is this team is not like no team they're facing has faced or knows how to handle Zach Edey. No matter what you read, now there's talk about this. What's his fair
DJ Burns.
Burns? Oh, this is
Who I
a
can't
Purdue
help but
man.
love, by the way.
What?
He's
What?
so fun to
Oh, I
watch.
love him. He's great, but he's a big boy. He's a
Lovable,
thick boy.
huggable, the whole thing.
But
But like Mark, you made the point after the Gonzaga game that Purdue is not hunting. Purdue's the hunted now. Like, what a mentality change that is. Sorry, Jay, for cutting.
no, that's all right. I just yeah. I think you derailed me. I don't even know what I was going to say now. Oh no, just the fact that like there's all this, no team has something to counteract Edey, no matter what you hear, no matter what people say. Oh, here's a look maybe they haven't seen. Has that worked yet? Has anything worked to slow him down when he's this focused? And between him and then what Smith has evolved into, and then Boilermaker gave credit to Lawyer, who played a great game, This is a guy who looked lost a month and a half ago. And he was the other guy in double figures, I think. He had some drives to the rim. Purdue clearly, I assume you guys
It
know.
looked like he was going to try to flush on that one play. Am I wrong
know.
with that?
There-
He went up. I was like,
he's
that
done
was
it. He's
Josiah
done it
James
before.
Johnson. I was like,
Well,
dang.
but it was very clear that Purdue. I think Painter must have talked at halftime about, okay, the threes aren't falling right now. Let's attack the rim. Let's attack it. Because in the second half, I noticed for a while there, you're like, they haven't even attempted a three now because now they're just either going into Edey or guys like Lawyer and Smith are driving to the rim. And it was working. And it's like, okay, well, that's working. Let's just do that. Let's do that some more. I mean, Lawyer, it felt to me, had way more attempts inside the arc than a typical game.
Well, he shot 5 free throws, which is the sign of someone who's attacking the basket.
Right.
And this is a lesson that I was taught in grade school, which is if your shot's not falling, attack the basket.
Yes.
And it is interesting how teams don't do that. Lawyer's the skinniest guy out there. He's pushed around easily, and he was going after it. You got to respect it, and it shows up. He had 14 points, the only other Boiler in double figures.
That's crazy. I mean, like, when Purdue didn't have, the three going, for them to kind of, like, hold it. And I think, kind of going back to Boiler Down's point, that run from when Purdue was down, down 11 with, I think, whatever, like somewhere in basically the second quarter of the game. And then went on that run to take the lead into halftime, take a 1 point or 2 point lead into halftime or whatever it was, 1 or 2 points. That won the game. Like that run.
Yeah.
Those are the kind of things that, because the block will always kind of go down as one of the more iconic, Purdue plays. Like, again, even if like Purdue goes on to kind of win 2 more games, I think that block is going to live on in Purdue lore for a while. But the kind of like defense tightening up, going down to Edey, making those decisions during that run, and then like tightening defensively, and then you were fortunate that some of those shots during that run were good Tennessee shots. Like they got some good looks at three that stopped falling, and what Purdue did was not allow empty possessions to happen. That was take advantage of the opportunities that present themselves, right? And so during that run, tightening it up to get that lead at halftime, that's the kind of stuff that, is kind of sometimes goes unmentioned when you only talk about the end of the game. But that was the run that won it to me.
Well, in that run, they forced 2 Tennessee turnovers, which is obviously good, but also they gave up 0 offensive rebounds on Tennessee. And that second chance points, Tennessee only had 6 offensive rebounds for the full game. You have to limit There are certain offensive rebounds and turnovers, missed free throws to a certain extent, are the types of plays that are like gimmies to the other team, right? And you limit those, and you can put together a nice run to make the half more successful than it was looking with 4 minutes to go.
I mean, just incredible. What a game. I mean, like, and then you were talking about Knecht. Like, that dude he's a beast, man. Like,
I believe he started 4 of 4 from 3. Is that correct? Something like that.
Sure.
I mean, it was clear that he was going to do everything that he could to get Tennessee to win. And I don't know how you can watch him and not just really appreciate how good of a player he is, how singular of a talent he is. But you need another guy. Tennessee didn't have another guy.
Yeah, I said this on the post game. Ziegler, I like that guy a lot. I think he's a good leader. He attacks the rim, right? But when Purdue put him in the place where he had to shoot jumpers, he was in a little bit of trouble, and it showed. I think he at one point was 1 for 5 or something from 3, something like that. They needed another guy to step up. I just don't think if you take their ability away to attack the hoop, they were in trouble. And Payne's plan almost worked, except for, I mean, I think it's all by design, but it was a poor design. He was smart enough to back out of his initial plan. That's another thing that I think many Purdue fans think Painter is just stubborn to a fault. I've been one of those who've accused him of it. Last year, I thought it bit Purdue pretty badly, but this year he was smart enough to say, okay, game plan's not working. Got to change something. And they found a way to force Knecht to actually bait him into going into the lane more, it felt like, right?
They've made adjustments. They've just looked so smart making adjustments of late. Now, I guess the first 2 games didn't require huge adjustments, but the games were definitely closer for the first 10 minutes each game. And Purdue has adjusted, and that's a great point. Painter is way less rigid in his, and that's evolution as a coach. He's 53. He's not an old man. He was much more rigid in his 30s and 40s. And we used to talk about that all the time, the types of players he would get. And then finally trying it with guys he maybe shouldn't have, and then saying that didn't work. Now I'm going to go back to the way I do things. You can't say enough about the coaching.
You could see the play of the team affect his recruiting, because we got to a point with a couple down years, and he would talk about this on the show and in press conferences and interviews. If we can't shoot the ball, and I need to recruit guys who can shoot the ball, and there were guys that he recruited and signed who were good shooters in high school that I was like, how is this person going to contribute in the Big Ten? But you can teach them all that other stuff, but you don't have to teach these kids how to shoot. And he clearly wants shooters on the wing, and he wants bigs in the middle, and he wants to grab a dynamic forward here or there whenever he can. That's the recruiting strategy. That's what he goes after. He also doesn't put all his eggs in a single basket like he used to do for several years.
Right, he'd go after one. If he missed, then he was screwed.
Then you get a Jacob Lawson because you didn't get, a certain player who went to Michigan State. Right.
Speaking of guys he went and got, I know we said it last week, but I love Lance. I can't love Lance anymore. He's, for good and for bad, he is never afraid to shoot. And you talk about Purdue every now and then does look tentative, right? There are players on this team that if things aren't going right, they do the pump fake and they pass it. Lance is like, let me have a chance. I would like to shoot the ball. And he will shoot it. And to hit that shot, this is a guy who's just brought in this year. Yeah. And he hits the biggest three-pointer in much of Purdue history? Pretty close.
Yeah.
Maybe the last biggest three-pointer in Purdue history was Klein bombing against Tennessee.
I was going to say the Virginia or the.
Oh, one of the other times they beat Tennessee.
It's a shame. It's a shame it had to happen versus Tennessee both times.
It's too bad.
Well, and the thing about Lance too is like when we signed Lance, it's like, okay, clearly this guy is an athlete. Clearly he can score. But my biggest concern was, can this guy play defense? Because what Purdue was needing was another guy who could play defense. And that's been a great part of his game.
I mean, he took Knecht in the second, or not just in the second half. I actually think it was kind of like down the stretch when Painter was like, I think for the last 12 minutes, like played five guys. Played the
Well, it was a short bench.
the starters with Gillis, right? I was completely wrong on that pregame. Again, like Boiler Dad, we were talking about, like, I thought Morton would get more. I thought Heidi would get more minutes. I mean, Gillis is we figured, but I thought Gillis would be on Knecht. Like, I thought that's why his minutes would be up. But in reality, like down the stretch, it was Lance that ran Knecht off the 3-point line, right? And he was still having, he was still scoring, he was still doing that. But like when it's just like dealing with Edey, it's like when a player is that great and they have it going that well, you just have to blunt their effects a little bit, right? Nobody's going to brag to say that they held Dalton Knecht to 37 points, but like running him off the 3-point line as Purdue is trying to close the game, that's winning basketball, right?
The other thing that Lance and others that guarded Knecht did really well was, and this has been a thing that sometimes Lance has struggled with at times this season, is there weren't a lot, if any, that I can recall, like dumb fouls on the perimeter, right? Like bringing the ball up, you're 30 feet away and you're just in his jersey a little too much. You get the hand in, called, whistle, free throws or ball out or whatever. Like those types of fouls are killer, especially when Tennessee starts shooting free throws. You don't want Knecht to rediscover his on fire stroke from the free throw line, which so often happens with guys like this. That's smart defense. Hey, if he's going to score, those shots that he was shooting, hey, more power to him. I mean, great shots. But you just can't make it any easier than it already is.
To that point, really quickly, Edey, people are complaining about the Edey's like low foul calls, and sure there are, like, meaning like he doesn't commit fouls, and sure there are always a couple of moments in every game that every player fouls that are not called, right? I don't think that Edey has a disproportionate number of those, but if you look at it, he knows not if that mentality of not drawing the stupid foul is true for Edey as well. He knows that if a player is going up, it is more important to box out if you're late on the contest than to kind of make that contest and
take a cheap foul.
This is like a basic like expected value thing.
Yeah.
Right. The positive of him contesting a shot is that he might get a block. The negative is that he'll get a foul, and then that limits his aggressiveness next time on defense. It makes him a target. It also might take him off the court, and he can't score. It's a very simple thing where, and we saw this last year too. Like he got criticized at times last year because it's like, oh, the guy got into the paint, and you'd like to see you come over there and make it hard on him. It's like, no, because if he gets over there and he gets his arms up, the odds are he's going to get a foul called on him. Just let him go, get the 2 points, and move on.
Yeah, I mean it's just a great game plan, and that game plan has changed through the year, right? Because he was contesting that earlier, but as you go further and further into the tournament, Edey's minutes become more and more valuable. So, I mean, it's like, so you've got to, you've got to make sure that, he's on the court. He's got to make sure he's on the court. He's disciplined, man. Yeah, freaking just incredible, man. Hey, did you know we're in the Final Four? That's pretty cool.
You hear that? There's a I wanted to point out one of the, Anish, by the way, you're doing a great job of putting up the comments that people are making. I
have them saved. I have them saved.
Doing a great job. There was one
saved. That's just as good as
that's good. You're just going to put them in your pocket and read them before bed. Somebody, John Faker says, has the whale spit Anish back on dry land yet?
Question.
There was a comment just a few minutes back where we were talking about hitting the biggest three in a long time, and someone said the last time Purdue made the Final Four, there were no 3-pointers from Joe Hensley.
Thanks, Joe.
Yeah, and there weren't going to be for like 5 more years. I mean, I was thinking about that today. That was the Carter administration. Good gracious. So I've talked about Chris Johnson. We all know Budo on Twitter, guy in the creative department, does a great job. His dad is down here in Florida where I am, and we were talking the other night, and he's 62. He graduated in 84, which means he got on campus the season after they went to the Final Four. Yeah. And he said whatever. He goes, if they go, I'm going to Arizona. He goes, I'm 62. I don't have that many years left. And he's like, I'm going to be there. And I was like, holy crap. This guy he was almost there when it happened, but not quite. And he's feeling that way. So those are the people I was thinking about. You know, we all talk about the members of the team that we saw stuff from, but like, there's so many stories, man. There were so many stories on Twitter about relatives who aren't with us anymore, who didn't see this, but you know, we all were like, of course they saw it. Yeah. And like, and just the people who told stories about being with their siblings. I saw you on your post game. Somebody said to you in the post game, Boiler Dad, they said, and you read the comment and then it hit you after you read it. He said, your son is going to be telling his grandkids about being at this game with you. And because you didn't have a co-host, you just had to sit there quietly for a moment.
Yeah, I had to sit there for a second so I didn't weep.
Amazing. Kevin Pass saying, I've cried 4,400 times today, heaving, crying. How my parents are enjoying this from the great beyond. It's such a family.
I mean, so there's a neat thing. Another thing I saw, I keep seeing older people commenting on different things on Twitter. And first thing I say is, there's no way my dad would be on Twitter. He couldn't do it. He couldn't figure it out. Love my dad, but there's no way. But today there was a woman who commented, I think she said she was 87. And she said something, she was commenting on the video that we posted. And
I wish she was the class of 80.
Faith. And she said she used to stay in bed for 2 days. She was so sick after Purdue would lose in the tournament. So if she's 87 and let's say the baby Boilers, right? Or the three amigos, you're like, you're old enough, right? So you're just as sick as we are, Faith. And I did. And so this stuff, it gets me. And it makes me feel a little bit better for being as nuts as I am about this. But at the same time, I mean, like my brother's in the room, I got a live studio audience, but the thing that I look at is we all have things we try to do to cope. He won't watch live games anymore. Basketball, football, he can handle it. And Jay's talked about this idea, like it's really easy to get to the point where you're totally spun out of control. And I've tried to pull it back in, but if you pull it in too much, you don't feel the punch of what we felt yesterday.
So you got to be a little insane, you're saying. You
got to be a little nuts because when you talk to people that don't get it and they say something like, hey, Purdue, because they know you're a Purdue fan because you wear Purdue gear a lot. And they say, hey, Purdue, I saw Purdue won this weekend. That's cool.
Exactly.
And you're like, yep. Not more than that, dumbass. It's a lot more than cool.
By the way, folks, this is Dowd pulling it in.
This is reined in, exactly.
This is reined in, the older, more mature.
We're proud. We're so proud of the Boiler Dad that shows up for the quick casts because it's like it's unreal that
you folks have no idea.
And
it like pulls it together and like is the
rational,
got the technology down for the most part, going through all of the comments. Like
it took a couple years, but we figured it out.
It's crazy.
Yeah, you get all these like signal messages, and you're like, oh. Let's see how the quick cast goes, and then like the most rational person on earth shows up.
Yeah, these guys. That's the funny thing. Last year, like the last, I'd say 3 years, you guys have seen it. It's gotten progressively better. I'd say in those 3 years.
Very good.
But like the unhinged version of me, back when Ivy was on campus and when Purdue beat NC State. How about this for a timely thing here? Right, yeah. Purdue beat NC State in Brooklyn. I was as angry about that game. It was a horrible game. Purdue played awful, and I was so pissed off about that. Remember, that was a road win. Go ahead.
They barely won it, right? They came back.
They barely won, and what was Rutgers right next or right before? I can't remember which one.
I don't think it was part of that because
Rutgers. That's right, because it was both games. Purdue was out of state for some reason. Something was happening in Mackey, so they sent Purdue for a big New York, New Jersey tour. You lose to Rutgers, first loss of the season, if I remember correctly. Then you almost lose to NC State, and I lose my crap with you guys. And Anish was so let down. He was like a dad or something. This is really not acceptable. this temper. This is really not acceptable. You guys, am I telling it wrong?
I remember that. I block a lot of this out.
Oh my gosh, I was so angry. I ranted because I was doing the voice memo thing that we do. and
Yeah.
it was like 7 in a row.
No. That's the
rapid
sign.
fire.
That's the sign. Whenever I open up the app and I see like 8 messages in a row from Dowd, like right after a tough game,
Yeah.
I'm like, I got to go into a different room.
Let me go sit down. Yeah. I'm going to go out to the barn.
I'm going to go out to the shop for
Yeah.
a minute. Each of them are 1 minute and 47 seconds long.
Yeah.
Well,
odd text.
So,
And then the quick cast comes up, and it's like, well, so Purdue,
and it's like,
Purdue needs to focus on.
but then he's cautioning. He's telling everyone else to be. He's like, no, I wouldn't react to. I wouldn't
It's a
overreact.
long season. There's a lot to like about this team.
We've
Meanwhile-
actually had that conversation on the side where I'm like, oh boy, he's so mad today. This game is, and then it's like completely reasonable.
It's the glasses.
He
Like,
feels, yeah.
That's exactly right. I'm like Clark,
Clark
Kent. I
Kent,
put on
yes.
glasses.
Well, I like you.
But instead of like becoming like Superman, you become like a reasonable human being.
Just reasonable. That's it. Just a reasonable human being.
No, he can't jump over a building, but he won't completely lose his.
He won't knock the building
Head
down.
through drywall now. So there's that.
Yeah.
That's good.
So you brought up NC State. I'm glad you did that. We're an hour in.
And we haven't talked about the opponent yet.
I think Purdue's going to destroy NC State. To your question earlier about, could you see a looser Purdue team? Yes. I think Purdue. So what I said before that game, I said, I think the final going in the Elite, I said the final is going to be the winner of Purdue, Tennessee against Connecticut. I don't care who Connecticut has to play. I heard someone today say, I think Alabama. No, I mean, Alabama's a good team. They're well coached by Nate Oates. That's great. I think
UConn's too locked in, but I will say you're playing in a football stadium, and that does change things for the first game
because of the breeze.
An ugly first half.
It does. The air moves.
Yeah, I think. But what do you mean? What do you mean? Ugly first half for Purdue against NC State or Connecticut?
It's more like cavernous of a venue.
No, I understand what you mean by that. I mean, what you're referring to the NC State game or a game against UConn potentially?
No, I think the first half of the NC State game is not going to be a pretty game of basketball.
Okay.
And then I think Purdue puts up 50.
As they have against like Gonzaga and many other teams this year where they come out with an adjustment in the second half. I just NC State, there's the other observation I have about this Final Four. Some years you get no number ones make it, right? And then you kind of end up with a crappy Final Four sometimes because you have like a couple teams that were hot and then they get into that football stadium and they play like a craptastic game like that Connecticut Butler finish. And then you have years where all the number ones make it or close to it. And it's like, okay, it's elite against elite. That's great. This year you have I think you've got the two best teams all year made it. You've got an Alabama team that's like a team up and coming, right? With a coach that's hot that we all looked at the beginning of the season and we were like, Alabama's really good. Like they're smoking hot. They're a good team. And then you've got NC State, the weirdo 11 that gets there. Like George Mason did that once. At VCU did that once. So you've got a little representation of all the different types of Final Fours, I think. But I still think that's going to be the one versus the one.
Everyone's a 1 seed. You're in the Final Four. Everyone's a 1 seed. They all won their
NC State
region.
Shouldn't have been in the tournament.
They won 9 straight. They beat Duke twice.
I get it. But how were they so bad this year? They're the most losses.
That banked has them in the tournament.
What a shot. Well, and they might not have made the NIT. I mean, they were not having
They have 14 losses, I think.
But
this is the argument. This is the argument, by the way, that the tourney is a crapshoot, right? I mean, like Keats was about to be fired, right? But there is a level of randomness sometimes that that
I don't think it's random 4 games in a row.
They're a good team. I mean, again, every team that makes Elite Eight Final Four runs are good teams. They are capable of doing this.
14 losses in each.
But it's
losses for a Final Four team. Every team that gets to this point has a moment in that season where it sort of clicks together, where they figure out who they are.
Theirs just happened to be
theirs happened to be in mid-March, and that's fine. I still don't think that they can match up to Purdue. I'm not worried about that game at all. But I think you can't go into I think the team is mature enough to avoid the trap of looking forward to UConn. Now the fans, whatever, but I don't think the team I think the team understands.
Boiler Dad brought this up on the Quickcast, but Fletcher Lawyer, like immediately after the game, saying
That's really cool.
2 more.
But you said he turned to the crowd, didn't
He
he?
turned to the crowd. He was kind of like on a half turn. 2 more, 2 more, and he was like resolute. I was like,
And then he tried to take the press chair home.
He did. Did he end up doing it?
No, they made him put it back.
Oh,
They made him.
And then he slapped the Purdue on the bracket upside down, which I enjoyed, and I enjoyed tweeting and saying, "Hey, we don't know what to do here. We're not used to this.
We're unfamiliar with April basketball."
Does it go? How does it go that way? Okay, that was great.
Let me ask you guys a quick question. Somebody said this to me today. The Tennessee grad that I talked to, he's a relatively level-headed guy, but I love this comment because I was like, you've arrived when. He was watching with Tennessee fans, and they said, "Dang it, that lawyer has a punchable face." And I was like, "All right,
Okay.
I get that.
Gets under their skin, sure." He has a smirk. He does.
Oh,
I mean,
he's always
again,
smart.
like Chris Kramer, I'm of the baby Boilers age. Chris Kramer, the most punchable face, and yet I would go to war with him.
I can tell you, my wife did not agree with that.
Exactly, that's part of
Yeah,
it.
I was about to say. I was like, oh, none of the women in my life.
Exactly, that's
No.
part of it. He's he's
Right.
That's why you want to punch him.
Yeah, you're not supposed to be that handsome on the basketball court.
and real good, and it seems
Yeah.
like you're a good dude. This is too
Yeah, he
much.
broke his nose, and I was like, and he's even hotter. What is?
Exactly. How's that happen?
It's it's like it,
The
it's-
lawyer
it's-
does do that smirk thing where he looks on like, yeah, no, I get it. Okay.
He also
He has a tan in Indiana in February. I mean, come on, what's up with
he
that?
also took a dive in that game, which you guys in the arena may not have realized. I mean, when he got knocked to the floor in the middle of the court, that was the biggest hilarious flop. They showed the replay. He barely gets grazed, and he does the whole like, oh man, I was like, that.
He
made
does
me
look
laugh.
like Raggedy Andy out there.
Yes. He hits the floor so hard when he hits the floor.
Yeah.
It's
I'm
to be-
convinced he had an injury back in February, but I'm just convinced of it. I don't think it was fatigue. I think it was more than that. And I think he tried to play through it, which is respectable. But he looked like dog meat, and he does not.
He
now.
looked lost is the only word I can come up with. Like he
Yeah.
no confidence in his shot, no legs. Like he just looked right. And then suddenly it clicked back in. Like I think it was against IU. He suddenly looked good again. And you're like,
Right.
all right. And now he's just found his game. Like nobody looks. I mean, Gillis had a tough game with 0, but he still,
he played
you know,
great.
yeah,
mean,
but
he was glued to the floor for
Yeah.
a reason. I mean, like
right. But I was just gonna say, even though he had a 0, I don't feel like anybody's playing right now like they're not a contributor out there, right? I mean,
like I'll say this: everybody in the 7 or 8 man rotation has had a moment so far, and none of them have really have been in real moments and put up like a disappointing.
Somebody talked about this. Maybe it was on the post game last night, saying that last year's team would have lost this. Many Purdue teams would have lost that. Shooting that poorly,
Oh yeah,
going down 11, having Knecht have a literal all-world game, like all those. A lot didn't work for Purdue, and yet there they are, still ahead the entire second half.
That's the point that I've been making for weeks here. Is that there's
best
Like,
on
it-
best. Like
you've got 5 guys who need
They're
need
not
one of them
all
to
going to
step
be
up.
terrible,
And they're not
Right.
all going to be terrible.
right?
And the other thing is that none of Purdue's main guys are prone to stretches of poor decisions. Braden Smith was the one out of the 5 who, in the past, you could look at and be like, that dude has a couple rough possessions in a row, but like in the last couple of months, he's really like walked back.
I mean, you wouldn't trust anybody else right now more
No.
than him. Like,
No, and
He's a
it's hard
sophomore.
for me to like look at a Purdue point guard who's not Lou Jack and be like, that's my favorite Purdue point guard. But Braden Smith is making it very difficult for me to like, and I still love Lou Jack.
dude, he's a sophomore. What will you think of him in 2 years? And by the way, I know I'm not the only one. Boilermaker, you said exactly what's been on my mind the last week. It's not next year. We know next year is going to be fun. A lot
Was
of
it about
talent coming
baked
in.
goods? Because I do talk about that.
But also, next year we know is going to be fun. But the year after is the year I'm thinking about now. When he's a senior, when Lawyer's a senior, when Trey Kaufman-Ren's a senior.
That team is going to be
When the guys coming in this fall are sophomores.
Yeah, the sophomore jump. Get out of here, man.
That team is going to be so good,
I-
assuming few defections, if any.
But the other part of this is like the other thing that we should mention. We mentioned on the preview, the tourney preview pod, or maybe it was last week's. But like nobody left, right?
Yep.
Like nobody. Like Brandon Newman left, and Newman left for a Purdue coach, like
Right.
for a former.
Who's now Oklahoma State's coach?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
the family part of this core is real.
They all
in a
decided.
way. I mean,
all
yeah,
decided.
they locked in, and they were all. Nobody left. Ethan Morton could have walked to Notre Dame and started for Micah Shrewsbury, and I bet Shrew would have loved to have him. Starting for Notre Dame is no joke. That is very cool. But like,
First is here and not playing at all, which is he was a starter last year. It's so
he was a
weird.
starter earlier this season. I mean, like
No, he wasn't. Same
at
starting five all year.
At the beginning, he wasn't. He didn't.
No,
I don't think so.
That was the big move.
Oh, yeah.
Here's the interesting thing, Anish. Not only did first not start this year, Purdue has had the exact same starting lineup from
For
start to
37
finish.
games.
I mean, that
Talk about a
makes-
team that's blessed with some. I
Fortunate.
mean, you didn't have flu. You didn't have somebody get a rolled ankle. That's
Well, last year Edey missed a game due to like something like the flu. Remember in the middle of the like in December, he just missed a game because he was sick. Never happened.
happens,
right?
yeah.
So that's the type of thing that like Newbert talks about luck,
Horrible.
right? And that's the luck factor that Purdue has definitely had in their favor.
Right, well, and fallen on the wrong side of in past years, right? I mean, like in countless past times.
So is everyone? So I mean, I'm feeling really good about North Carolina State. Does anyone have reservations about NC State?
Like hotel reservations?
Exactly. Yes. Plane reservation.
Vinny Sutherland, who I don't know if you guys know this, he was a pretty good athlete in his own right. He's on here. Listen to your sorry asses right now.
Do you think
Purdue
that's the real
legend,
Vinny
Steven
Sutherland?
Phoenix.
See, now I feel that I would have showered if I known that Vinny Sutherland.
Yeah, you would have probably dressed up. Maybe you put a squirt of cologne on or something.
I also like
You can't smell it, but you can tell I'm wearing it.
Yeah, you could sense it.
if we're in guys naming dudes mode, there's also a Nemanja Chalisan
Yes.
here.
He's a regular.
It just makes me every time it makes me smile.
Makes you-
That,
Giggle, right,
that can't
exactly.
be him, can it?
It's in my head. It is.
Okay, all right.
So
I
yes,
think that's
to
really
answer
Vinny because that's a Twitter tie-in. I think that's really Vinny right there.
to answer Michael, yes, I am very confident. I said this all along that if they make the Final Four, there's no pressure at that point. Now it's fun, and now it's house money, and now you also there's all the factors roll together. Now you also have extreme confidence because you just won 4 games, two very difficult ones in a row, and now you're playing in 11. You're playing since the first round, the lowest seed you'll have played. And I just think I know they're playing well. Any team you play in the Final Four is playing well, of course, that caveat. But are they better than Tennessee?
No.
Is Purdue going to shoot as poorly as they just did? I really don't think so. I understand the football stadium thing, but I really don't think they're going to shoot that poorly.
I think
about this, guys, for a second.
Is already.
Go ahead, Michael.
I was just going to say real quick that I think that the team is already loose. I think they've shown a looseness through the first 4 games of the tournament. So now it really
But you're
is
over the hump. You're over the hump.
You're
is
over
my
the hump.
point.
You've accomplished something. But I think the team is mature enough and has been loose enough that really all it comes down to for these next, hopefully, 2 games is execution.
Yes.
There are
I
no
agree.
other narratives around this team. It's just
I think Connecticut, even with Purdue's best execution, could be too good. I mean, I'll just say that because
what did I say at the beginning of the tournament?
Yeah.
One team.
Yep.
One
It's the only team. Isn't that the only game Purdue's not going to be a favorite in?
Yes.
If they play Connecticut and Connecticut keeps smashing teams the way, because I had somebody saying to me recently that it's the Big East, they haven't played as tough a schedule as Purdue, and I was like, but they are dismantling everybody, especially in the tournament, and that's what matters right now. It doesn't matter what their regular season was. What have they done in 2 tournaments in a row? They have annihilated everybody by it's no less than 13 points.
12
no
points,
less.
yeah.
That's insane.
It is.
They just beat Illinois by 30, 25.
It helps when you go on a 30-0 run. Congrats,
Good job, Brad
Illini.
Underwood. Good
What
job,
a
Brad
what a
Underwood.
wonderful.
What an amazingly inept. I mean, again, I make jokes during the season about when something comes out about a jackass coach. I'm always like, I'm so glad Painter's our coach. I used to say that all the time, even far before they were in the Final Four. And And
They were. I'm sorry, your mic cut out there.
yes,
What did they-
that they are now in the Final Four. I don't know if that news has made its way to Pittsburgh.
Oh,
I was always saying that. I've said that for years. Every time there's an embarrassing coach, and I don't care if he has been to a Final Four. Brad Underwood hasn't, just so you know. And then I see stuff like that where I'm like, not only is that guy kind of a jackass and kind of look like what's your description? Used car salesman? Isn't that yours?
Yeah.
Yeah, he just needs the jacket. He kind of has it sometimes too.
He's worn a stupid jacket.
Yeah,
Wore
just
a
the
orange
hairs
check jacket one time. Plaid jacket.
constantly calling out his team. That's how I motivate them to do what, Brad? To go to the
To
first
leave?
round?
So you can rebuild the team every other year, Brad, with transfers?
what Danger just entered the portal, didn't he? I mean, that's wild.
Who'd have thought?
But yeah, I mean,
Ryan's
like
son
again,
doesn't
it's
even
like,
want to play for him.
yeah,
Yeah, go on.
we are lucky, man. We are lucky to have Painter. We are lucky that Bruce Weber took the Illinois job a year early. We are there are so many things that kind of like ended up so that we are in this place. And we were talking about this years ago, which is like when Painter breaks through, it's going to feel that much better because he did it and it's him and he did it running this program that way. The noodle talking about used water.
The noodle says Brad's a used waterbed salesman. That one
makes
broke me right there.
He does seem like the type of guy that's got like a pontoon boat that he wants you to take a look at. Yeah.
What's that? One of us owns a pontoon. We're not going to talk about that right now. One of us owns a pontoon.
Take it easy
Not
there.
really.
What's wrong with pontoon boats, buddy?
Nothing. It just
Love
seemed like,
pontoon boats. Love
seemed
them.
like that was a swipe in someone's direction.
No, hey,
Right?
there's a difference between a user of a pontoon boat and a
And a guy
guy
trying
who's
to
got
sell
a
you
And
pontoon
this guy trying to
boat.
sell you a
A
pontoon.
questionable one. Right.
Yeah.
Don't start the motor up now. You don't.
Yeah,
it runs
it's
great.
Yeah.
Runs great. It's on
You gotta
land right
flush it. You gotta flush it.
Right. It needs to be right. Gotta flush.
Like it's like 15 feet away from the dock, just like sitting there. Runs great, I promise.
So guys, there are a couple things I wanted to close up with here. Okay. First one is when we look at what makes a NCAA tournament run great, you guys talked about the idea that someone throw the team on your back, right?
Yeah.
And the prototype of the guy that throws the team on the back is we've always say this is a ball dominant guard. Well, Purdue had the same exact thing happen. We just saw it with Tennessee. We've seen it all tournament. We're watching Zach Edey do big things, doing big things. And he is the guy who's got Purdue on his back. It's breaking up so many stereotypes, so many trends in modern college basketball. The big man doesn't do this, right? It doesn't happen.
Not anymore.
Okay? I think it's super interesting that this is a guy that many people have already written him off as a pro, and you're watching him kick the ass of people that are going to be in the league. I think that's interesting. And you guys know what I think about the NBA, but I would not bet against Zach Edey. That's the first thing. Second part, when I look at this team and the way they've run to the Final Four, Jay and I have been talking about this for almost 20 years. And in fact, we may have even been talking about this back to college, where when Purdue would have an open door in the tournament and they would have an opportunity to go, you'd say, what a path, right? Everybody looks at the bracket. I love this path. This is a great path. Now let's look at Purdue's path. That's not an easy path.
It was not.
It is not an easy path to the Final Four.
Purdue
The other
doesn't
thing
do
is this
anything
journey
easy.
is a 2-week journey, and it's felt like 2 months to me at times.
It's been amazing.
It's
exhausting.
exhausting
Yeah.
as a fan.
They're going to play their 5th NCAA tournament game.
I
on
didn't
Saturday.
know you. I
I didn't know that was allowed.
Yeah, you
exactly.
thought, this is it. There's 4, and then you're done. Yeah.
4.
So I got to tell you guys the little content look ahead. I am going to do an NC State preview. If you guys want to get together again, you're welcome to. There have been many people ask the question, are we all going to meet up in Phoenix? I don't know the answer of that question. I'm not going to put anybody on the spot. Here's what I am going to tell you. It's going to break you financially when you go.
Oh, yes. You may not be able to go
look at
home.
the prices of this. Holy moly.
Yes. It's bad.
It's
Yeah,
almost like this is just a money-making endeavor. Like the whole
What?
thing. Yeah,
Well,
isn't that wild?
And you know what I keep saying, and it's just that kind of like shaking your fist at the sky
Yes.
because there's no one to be. But like, what wasn't it just in Indianapolis like last year or very recently? Like, how come it has to Phoenix? Phoenix isn't even close to anything. It's not like it's in Vegas and you could fly to LA and drive there or something.
Right.
It's not in New Orleans where
This is the difficulty.
it's awful.
Problem.
It's an awful venue. And here's the best part for those of you planning or thinking about going, don't forget to factor in the game is at 3 local time. So if you're going to try to go there Saturday and you're maybe have to go indirect because it's in Phoenix, you're going to have to go Friday now because you're not going to be able to get there before 3 o'clock on Saturday. Right. So great job, everyone.
So in case you don't know this, Purdue fans who are heading to Phoenix are already there. Purdue will practice on Friday at noon.
Where at? Are they at like Arizona State or something?
No, they practice there in the venue.
Oh, in the drafty football stadium. Okay.
Yes. So just heads up to everybody. I think there are a lot of people that want to be there just to be there around other people. That's what I want to do. And I think that's a good start. There's also the dunk and 3-point contest is on Thursday night, and it's at 6. I think.
Is that in there?
Yeah, it's at a different venue.
I was going to say, it was always at a different venue. I went to one of those one year.
A different place. It's in downtown Phoenix. I just don't know where it is. It's a smaller venue. Tickets were cheap, $15, in case you're wondering, looking for stuff to do when you're in town. Let me ask you one last question, guys. Has Zach Edey put to bed the debate of who the GOAT at Purdue is? Has he done enough?
Listen, I shout out to like all of those that have come before him. 2-time National Player of the Year. Breaks the Keady Painter Final Four ceiling. Has every record in the Purdue record books. Most points, most rebounds. I know that there are more games now. But
there's more games, but it's also that much harder to get to a Final Four as well.
Absolutely. The previous, I think the previous answer many have given in terms of a career is Rick Mount.
Many are saying.
Many people have said. But the common refrain you hear is Rick Mount. Yeah, to me, it's like this is the guy. This is the guy that put the team on his back. The NCAA tournament. First, he's done this 2 consecutive years. He's been the best player in college basketball for 2 consecutive years. He's gotten significantly better this year. Again, every record in the Purdue record books, and never before has March Madness been at this kind of. Only in the last 30 years has the tournament been at this level of like monoculture as a sporting event, right? Kind of like this is the event.
Everyone is good in a way that everyone was not good, even in the Glenn Robinson.
Yes.
Oh, that's
so
a great
got John
point.
Wooden, Rick Mount, Glenn Robinson, Zach Edey. I don't know how you make the argument for anyone other than Zach Edey. Yeah. And that is no disrespect to 2
those are great,
phenomenal guys that you could make a statue of, and no one would argue that. But Zach Edey has done a thing that he has brought Purdue to a Final Four in the modern era. He is putting up stats that have him next to like the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Shaquille O'Neal like tier of player, and 2-time National Player of the Year. Like, love those other guys. It's Zach Edey, open and shut.
Yeah, I had people kind of take umbrage with the idea that I said it was put to bed. I tweeted it out, and I was surprised that anybody took umbrage with it. But I had a couple say, "Hey, it's not decided yet." That was the other thing. What are we waiting for?
I want to wait and hold my judgment until I see some. I want to see the whole picture.
I want proof.
I see the whole performance.
I want a larger.
You don't know. Maybe he'll have a
field.
zero burger on Saturday. And
DJ Burns is going to hold him to 0.
Right. You don't know, and that'll change. Even if that happened, he still.
By the way, my nickname when I was in the hip hop, my nickname was DJ Burns.
That was when you were at parties spinning.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, DJ Burns.
Because I would burn up the wheels of steel. That's what they.
Oh, is that why?
Yep.
Burns. That was the Burns.
That's the Burns. Yeah, that's. Okay.
But it's
the other one was Black Vanilla. That was my other, or Vanilla Black. What was the commercial? What's the Axe spray?
I
just butchered the joke, and that's great.
That's always the best when you have a good one.
You can still recover. Keep going. You can still recover.
Dig it a little deeper.
I don't know. It doesn't matter. That was my nickname totally. That other, whatever that was. So,
Mr. Matt DSM.
I thought your nickname was Zero Burger. No, that's not.
Matt DSM
no,
says,
I can tell you that has never been.
That's not the case. What am I saying?
Like 4 burgers.
Matt DSM says DJ Burns has had a non-zero number of burgers. All right, that will not be the last Chubb joke that is made. Now, we all like him, though. He's a beast. And the fact that he can run up and down that court built like that, it makes me tired looking at him.
Exactly. I want no part of it. I want no part of it.
Imagine taking a charge from that boy.
No,
No.
thank you. Absolutely not.
Just like
You'd
a
wake
freight
up
train
in
to the
August.
chest.
But like he can pass. It's it's like Luka and Jokic in the NBA where it's like they don't leave the ground and yet they just completely control the game. It's so fun.
You could hit a 20-foot finger roll.
Oh,
Exactly,
Ross says he's driving out. That's an interesting.
Yeah, there's a couple people have said that today on Twitter. Hats off to you.
When are you leaving now? You're leaving today?
Wow.
2,000 miles.
No, thank you. No, thank
And I drive places. That's bananas. That is
Oh, that's what you're looking at. 27 hours probably from the
easily
East Coast.
probably more. No, probably more.
God.
Because it was like 18 from New Jersey to Florida. To
Only
South Florida.
16 for me.
Yeah, you could get there.
Man,
You could drive there, but that's man.
Texas
It's,
is
it's,
my number.
it's a drive through the worst.
Yeah,
Or-
Marty Davenport, by the way, just referenced something, guys. I think I got to address. We were talking about Burns. He's listed as 275 pounds.
Yeah. And I'm still like 180.
Yeah, exactly. You're what your license says. Dang, it changes a lot in 5 years. Oh no, I'm living a lie. We get pulled over, and the officer's going to say, "You sure, fatty?"
See, none of that stuff makes any sense. And so I encourage DJ Burns to list himself at like a cool 220.
Why not?
Why not? No one cares. It doesn't mean anything.
Go for it.
One player I did want to bring up was Joe Barry Carroll, who got Purdue to the last Final Four. I think though, it only took 3 wins to get there in 1980.
I just looked. It was 4. It was only 3 if you were one of the top seeds.
Okay.
You got buys back then. Purdue was a 6 though, so they had to win 4.
Another number 1 pick. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
it's not like Purdue doesn't have greats in its history. Regardless of Joe Barry Carroll's NBA nicknames, but like.
Oh, that nickname didn't start in the NBA.
I know, yeah, that's fair. But like, that's something that you'll never say about Zach Edey, that he doesn't care, right? I mean, like, there are 2 number 1 picks in their history. Rick Mount, John Wooden. Like, you've got kind of legends of the game, and yeah, Zach, man, I don't know, kind of going back. You can kind of camp. I think Ed is telling us to camp in the Grand Canyon, on the way, on the way to Phoenix. So I think that's a good suggestion.
Do any of you have jobs? Or
Not
No,
this,
everyone's independently wealthy but us.
I don't understand. One
Get that
said they're
back.
leaving today or tomorrow or something.
no, man.
So a fun fact about the 1980 that games in the NCAA tournament were hosted at schools that participated in the tournament. And despite Purdue being a 6 seed in the Mid-East, they hosted in the first round in West Lafayette.
Yeah.
That's so good. I didn't know that.
Isn't that great? Yeah. First and second round. As a 6 seed.
They should bring it back. But I mean, and that's the other part of this is like, I think I had a comment pinned before. Yeah, it was Kevin in Albuquerque. I couldn't hear. I don't know, Boiler Dad, if you could hear the whistle in person. I couldn't. Like every time there's a stoppage in play, I was like, why are they suddenly stopping? Like it got so loud that legitimately I thought I was just losing my hearing because I couldn't hear the whistles happening. But that's the advantage of I was gonna say it would be nice to play in Mackey, but Purdue fans basically made Indianapolis and Detroit kind of Mackey, and so that was nice. Winning enough to get those venues a little bit closer, and not having to be UNC going out west and playing in the West bracket, or getting a 2 or 3 seed and being seeded wherever. I mean that was huge. That was massive.
Ross asks if we had a group email back in the 2000s. We did actually, Ross.
That is how
Pre-boiled sports.
.com started.
That felt like a shot.
Yeah, that's the roots of it.
Yeah, it didn't feel like a compliment. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I agree.
Frail Hammer says that Jay Money is chartering a flight for all.
I've been trying to
Yeah,
convince Jay to establish a Boiled Sports scholarship fund.
Oh,
For
I thought you were going to
these
say like a
activities.
NetJets account.
But
A scholarship, what, to send you to the University of Phoenix?
Yes.
Zing. Yeah.
Costs money.
Yeah.
So, well, guys, it's been a pleasure tonight talking to you. It's been nice hearing some thoughts from people in the margin, and I think we got rated at one point. There were different fan bases represented. That's nice. It's always nice to have guests.
Not anymore.
What's it? Yeah, Mark Garrity says we all have wet eyes, and yeah, no doubt, no doubt. And I don't think you're done with that if you're anything like me. So enjoy it, soak it up. But we're going to Phoenix. Your Boilermakers are in the Final Four. I love you guys. Good night.